Mo here at Politicon 2018, and I am here with Jeff Stanzler, who is a writer and director of film and who is now branched into virtual reality experiences.
Correct.
Jeff, I just experienced your creation, State Power. Tell the audience about that. What is that?
State Power, you saw the first episode of what we will make 12 to show both in a conventional 2D version, which you will hopefully see in your local theater, but also you'll be able to download episodes in virtual reality of a very similar story and be able to see a comparison between the two mediums and decide for yourself whether one is more preferable to your experience than the other.
So when I sat down with the VR headgear on, it asked me to answer some questions. What were those questions, and what's the point of that?
The point is that...
What are the questions?
The questions, I think the first question is, how are you feeling about democracy and rule of law in America? Concerned, unconcerned, very concerned. Mm-hmm. The second question is, where do you get media trust? Social media, independent media, mainstream media. And the last is, what do you think is the most likely outcome of the Trump presidency? And in State Power, you only have three choices. America is made great again. There will be a military dictatorship, or there will be a leftist revolution. And depending on how you answer those questions, that will lead you to the version of the film best suited for you.
So how many versions are there? 3?
Right now there's 3, yes.
Okay, so there's 3 sets of questions. Potentially you could have many different versions of the video.
We're working on other versions.
But it seems like your work as a director and a writer expands exponentially with the more choices that you add.
Right, unfortunately our budget for shooting has not expanded exponentially, but one day soon.
So the first time it asked the question, what do you think is going to happen, I said other, and then there was a sort of a scolding screen that said, there is no other. You must pick.
Emphasis on the interviewer.
Yeah. So I selected, I thought there would be a left-wing revolution. And that took me into what I took to be like a VR presentation of the novel The Turner Diaries. Are you familiar with that novel?
I'm not, but now I want to read them.
Oh, it's not a well-written novel, but it is sort of a Bible of the white nationalists.
Yes, I have heard of this, yes.
Yeah. I tried to read it, I didn't get through it, not because I was offended, just because it's not a very well-written book. But in it, basically the political correct mafia rises, seizes power, and good, hard-working white people have their guns taken away, and money is outlawed, and basically freedom is outlawed, and it's the heroic struggle of a small band of white people, fighting back against this. And in the experience that I had in your film, I'm in a van with a hood over my head, just some eye holes cut through it, and there's some very crackerish sounding people in the van with me, and we get taken to a cage where black people abuse us, basically, and a white person who seems to have chosen the other side tells us how sorry he is that the world that we like is gone, but we just got to get used to it. It was strange, as I told you in the post the post-experience interview. It was like I was watching somebody else's nightmare, because it's not really an embodiment of my fears, but I know it's an embodiment of a lot of people's fears.
More than I imagined when we came here today.
Yeah, you're collecting people's experiences after the fact. What are you learning from that?
I'm learning that, first of all, for Politicon, where we see people are much more attuned to the news and current events than we have in other, small test screenings that we've done. I'm finding both great fear and complete dismissal of the world that we are projecting in State Power. Which, I didn't expect to see such a polarized view here, but then, maybe left, right, but I didn't think, everything's normal or everything is completely not normal. So it's been more polarized in that sense than I thought.
So you're talking to people who think that all the the hysteria and all the concern about loss of democracy, loss of traditional modes of civic engagement, or that's just nothing to worry about? That's all made up fear.
Yeah, I mean, I had a political scientist that I just interviewed who basically said our institutions are strong and this could never happen. And then when I started to engage him on what is the state of our country compared to what it was, even 5 or 10 years ago, and made comparisons to other dictatorships that, have quickly rose, he started to say, "Oh yeah, that's true," before, and gather himself before he made his counter argument. And that's. I mean, I didn't want us to make this film to scare people. Mm-hmm. I just wanted us to sort of see the perspective of what we have. Our democracy is so fragile and so sacred. I want us to think of the possibilities. What if it's gone tomorrow? I mean, we'd had 9/11, and the Patriot Act was signed like a week later, 2 weeks later, and that was, huge. All the changes in our judicial doctrine because of that. So I think the idea that we can get complacent with our democracy now seems to me the absolute worst thing we as a populace could do.
Now, do you think that people are becoming complacent, or do you think there's a new re-engagement with democracy now? I
think there's a great re-engagement, but I think there's also a fatigue. Mm-hmm. I think some people are, oh God, what is this? Is it Kavanaugh? Is it, separating kids at the border? Is it, killing a Saudi journalist, or, an American Saudi journalist? I just can't keep up with it. And some of my friends who I feel, are politically inclined are tuning out. And, I read recently that, that's what fascism wants, whether it be it left or right. They want you home watching the game or, out getting an ice cream. So I think whether you believe that Trump is the great savior of our nation, or whether you think the exact opposite, you cannot let your friends and neighbors go about their business, because we are at a critical point.
Well, let me ask you, if shortly after 9/11 somebody had presented you with the question, what do you think will be the result of the George W. Bush presidency? Will it be a conservative takeover and a fascist state? Will it be a leftist revolution? Or will it be, America reasserts itself as a globally dominant power, without serious challenge? Which of those? I mean, you have to choose.
Which would I have picked?
Yeah.
I at that time, I don't think I was as attuned to what was going on. I remember when we went into Afghanistan, there was a big protest coming down the street in New York where I lived. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh my God, how can anybody be protesting, attacking Afghanistan? They're the ones who attacked us. And we're still there 17 years later.
Right.
So, how I would have answered then is probably different than how I would have answered now.
Well, I think the point I was trying to make is that none of those three things really sum up what happened as a result of...
I would completely disagree.
Yeah? Which one do you think happened?
Well, I think we definitely showed our global dominance. I mean, mm-hmm. We went into Afghanistan and Iraq and Somalia and now Niger and Syria. And you might have heard Wesley Clark's story, that after 9/11, he was at the Pentagon and he walked into an office sort of casually. And he's like, what are you doing? He said, we're planning to attack these 7 countries. Mm-hmm. And I think we've attacked 6 of them so far, albeit Iran. So
right, but none of them have been the round, just unqualified success that the neocons thought they would be. They've all been quagmires. They've all been, had horrendous blowback. It doesn't seem like America's military hegemony is unchallenged.
Well, certainly the military-industrial complex is stronger than it's ever been. Mm-hmm. We just approved, $800 billion this year, more than the Pentagon had asked for. So, that can only point in one direction. But anyway, I should get back.
All right.
But I love you guys. I love your work, your drawings at least. I'll read the rest when I get the chance. And thanks so much for asking me on.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. All right.